Why did you launch EXP, and what were you hoping for?
Yeah, so I started in real estate just over 20 years ago, April 29th, 2002. I know the date because it was a big deal kind of getting into real estate the way I did. But I joined on a team, but I was an internet lead generator. And then I was like, okay, what do I do with these leads? And so that led to, how do you build a team? And so I went to Keller Williams, and I remember reading actually in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the idea that it takes about 5 years to create some skills around different parts of your business. And I'm like, I don't have 5 years to get here, to get here, to get here. So I'm a kind of a glutton for punishment. So like, instead of starting one team, I started 6 different real estate teams. So generally at the same time. And I realized that there was a big challenge for me running a real estate team. And the big challenge was that there was, for me at the time, and it seems like some people have broke through the ceiling today, but at the time I hit a bit of a glass ceiling as a team leader. I'd have agents leave the team, and they go effectively into competition with me. I'd help them. And most of them, by the way, I noticed that most of them actually went out of business after leaving the team. So, the lead gen, the training, the coaching, the high accountability infrastructure, that was something that, the team members got value from, but maybe they didn't appreciate it. And I said, well, how do we keep people, how do we invest in people, and then maybe even allow them to graduate off the team and be able to build income? And so that was one of the ideas around revenue share that we built the model. We thought about the idea that as a team leader, you need a certain platform or an infrastructure to run your team on. And then if the infrastructure then has some financial benefits for recruiting and bringing people to the brokerage, that it could be a pretty powerful model. So there was some of the ideas around it. It was really the idea that also for me, there was no true exit strategy from real estate in the way traditional real estate was set up. And I mentioned earlier about sort of solving the bigger challenge. I'm like, how do we actually, build a business in real estate that actually does have the benefits of a typical business, which is equity ownership, being able to build a residual income from the business as it scales. And so those are things that I wanted to solve for me personally.
Over the last 10, 12 years, become the fastest growing brokerage in history in agent count. And what's funny is we become known, as RE/MAX did before Keller did before us, as the recruiting company. And everybody thinks we're the recruiting company, but our numbers in production speak for themselves. And could you put that in perspective? Because we do a boatload of production.
We do, yeah. You start to look at EXP agents in aggregate, and we're actually more productive than the industry average. So we're actually, we're actually above the industry average in terms of production per agent. And a lot of that has to do with the way that we structured compensation. So we introduced and created the very first Icon Agent program in 2014. And we did it for the single purpose that we knew that the top agents at any brokerage that they went to was getting a special deal. Just nobody knew what the special deal was. And so we said, if we want to attract these top producers, why don't we make this special deal actually overt and be able to recruit to it and be able to bring those top producers over? Because agents will gravitate to where the top producers are. And then we start to think about all the things that happened because of that. I mean, the masterminding, I read the messages and I talk to people and saying, because of EXP and being able to be around so many icons and the fact that we got icon-versations and all these masterminds, my businesses went up faster at EXP than any other brokerage I've previously been at on a significant level. And so just creating those opportunities for connections with other top producers really is all about, leveling up your production. Only about 5 to 10% of agents actually make agent attraction a significant part of their business. And 80% of agents are on the productive side, meaning that they listed or they sold real estate in the last 12 months. 20% didn't sell real estate in the last 12 months. That's where most of our churn is. And some of those are actually more into the agent attraction side. But the majority of people that are into agent attraction are actually active, productive selling agents who happen to know other agents who could benefit from the EXP model. And they know from personal experience that, at least for them, EXP is the best model.
The production side, now that you've talked about it, does speak for itself if people look to our production. You talked about the icon agent having a sweet deal here, and everybody's aware of it. There is no secret deal, which makes a level playing field. Talk about a level playing field and how great that is for our entire company.
Yeah, well, one of our core values is integrity, and there's a couple things. When we think about the integrity of a model, you want to be able to trust that the model is going to do what it's supposed to do. You want to be able to trust that the person down the street, next city, next county, next country, doesn't have some sort of different deal than you do. And when there is a different deal, not to say that there aren't strategic reasons why we might do something, but as a general rule, it's exactly the same for every single person in the company. 84,000 plus agents have exactly the same opportunity, the exact same deal. We keep on investing in it. We call it iterating around the agent value proposition. So we're looking for, how can we create education opportunities? How can we layer in some additional revenue opportunities? How do we layer in other networking opportunities? How do we layer in other technology opportunities? But it's the nice thing is that it's only one model that we have to manage really around the world, which means we get to create common language, we get to create a common vocabulary, and we really are building this together. You'll see a lot of brokerages will have 200 agents in an office, and there could be 140 different pay plans. Because there's every time somebody goes to potentially walk out the door, they have to sweeten the deal for that agent and to keep them and retain them. But our model is so generous to begin with that it's just a great agent attractor, and there's really no need to create a new special deal for the next agent who might want to leave for the next shiny object.
Our equity program, can you speak briefly for that? Because a lot of people get the wrong perspective about our stock going up or going down, where in most companies they don't get stock at all. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, equity is really a big deal. When you think about the wealthiest individuals in our economy, it is, you can certainly make money from real estate. There's no doubt, and there's people who've done extremely well, but it's the equity components. You look at the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks, the all of the various different folks, and where do they make their money? The wealthiest people made money through equity. And so if you talk to entrepreneurs that actually get it, they go, okay, I get that I'm going to get either 100% of my own efforts, or I'm going to get some components, or maybe some tech, or maybe you're going to pay for some marketing or whatever it is that you're going to do. But in EXP, you actually earn equity over time. And if we think about the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we think about it as a long-term forced savings program of sorts, where you're getting a little equity every year. Eventually, that equity in theory should be worth a lot more in the future than it is today. But even if it wasn't, most agents, and I was one, most agents aren't the best at sort of saving and investing for the future. And so having it in this other form of, we'll call it currency, something that's a little less liquid, creates this nest egg where if something happens, 4 or 5 years from now, it takes a little work to convert it from stock to cash, but it gives you that extra security, which could be the difference between, and I've had so many stories around how it's paid for medical expenses, or it's helped put kids through college, or it's done these different things. I had somebody last week at Build, and this wasn't with regard to the equity, this regard to the revenue share, and maybe it was the combined. I didn't get the exact details, but a woman came up to me and said, you know, I got divorced quite a number of years ago, and I joined EXP 2 years ago, and I can say for the first time in my life, or since getting a divorce, I'm not going to sleep scared, and so that was like a huge deal, because you know, when you're an individual producer on your own, you've got, you know, family, kids, whatever things that you're responsible for, it is a bit of a scary place to be, and a lot of agents don't identify with it when they're younger, but as they get older and they've got more responsibilities, you know, that stuff becomes more and more important. So the equity component is one of those additional components you don't really know you need until you need it, and when you need it, you know, which could be later on in life, all of a sudden you've got this extra bucket.
It's the extra bucket idea, the equity, the revenue share, the lead generating platform with KV Core, the ability for agents to get access to health insurance at a fair price, or at least a reasonable price. These are all reasons why we've become the fastest growing brokerage to 10,000 and 20,000 and 30,000. Now we're at 80,000, approaching 90,000, and most companies have never gotten there. For a moment, put on your agent attraction hat. I'm actually sitting in Zurich, Switzerland, just got off a plane. I'm in Zurich, Switzerland. And if we were launching in Zurich and you were wanting me to go up to an agent in real estate and tell them one or two or three things about EXP, they'd be the first things they'd ever hear about our company. What would be the things you'd want me to tell them?
Let me share with you some of the benefits that, you know, we've created in the US and why it's been the fastest growing real estate brokerage. And I just say, you know, one of the things is we've actually created the first retirement program, or ability to actually build something beyond just the listing and selling of real estate. Do you think that's something that would be of interest to agents here in Switzerland? And then I'd say, you know, one of the things that we've done is we've created an equity program where agents actually become owners in a publicly traded NASDAQ company. Do you know any agents who would like to be owners in their own brokerage? And so I'd probably posture it like that. And I'd ask the question because questions lead to the types of answers. First of all, who's going to say that they're not looking for a retirement strategy? So you're asking them a question that they would, if they say no, they're not looking for any sort of additional opportunities. Well, you don't want to talk to them anyway. So it's a filtering process to some extent if they're just being difficult, or maybe they don't care. Maybe they're independently wealthy. They're in Switzerland. Their father owns a bank. But you know, the reality is that most people are looking for opportunities. Most people are looking for ways to build long-term wealth. Most people are looking to be on the front end of something. And so I would just lead with sort of the opportunity of being part of something coming to the country. By the way, in my opinion, just as an entrepreneur, the details don't matter that much. The details matter in that when somebody actually digs into it, they need to make sense. But you know, as Gene Frederick talks about all the time, people join people, and so when you think about it from that perspective, then what you want to do is you want to form a relationship, and then you can come in and fill in the details later, rather than going straight to the details. A lot of people sell features, not benefits. A lot of people, think about, EXPing on people. And so I like to think about the idea that we are in partnership with whoever we're in conversation with. And our goal is to really just provide them somebody that they can get good consulting from, conversations from, and is effectively their friend relative to the subject that you're talking about. So if we're talking about real estate, you want to say, hey, I don't know if this is a great opportunity or not for you, but if you're interested in exploring it, I'd love to show you what it is. Maybe it's for you, but maybe you know somebody that this might make a lot of sense for. I'd love to just, collaborate with you on that. So just those are the ways that I would approach it. Just say, hey, I don't know if this is for you or for not for you, but my guess is that, we're getting along great. You probably know somebody that this would make sense for. And by the way, once they start to identify a few folks that might make sense for, guess what? That's their revenue share group.
Makes sense for them. Great answer. Great answer. Let's go to a personal factor for a moment. You launch a company, 84,000 people are following now, and many of us are running up and helping lead the company as well. One of the things that you have to have is some pride, and I mean that in the best way, of some things you've accomplished here, or we've accomplished here. Could you identify one or two things that you were expecting and we hit, and maybe one or two things that you weren't expecting and we still did?
Well, I say this, and I make sure that this goes in every press release in the company, that we're building the most agent-centric real estate brokerage on the planet. We're building the real estate brokerage that, had it existed back in 2009, I would have been an agent there. Literally, I would have been an agent there, because the opportunity is just that good. And so what I'm proud about is really delivering on what we set out to do in 2009. It's one thing to actually build a business plan, and I've built hundreds of business plans. I've probably launched 17 companies over the years. And so I know the difference between writing a business plan and executing a business plan. And executing a business plan in a true alignment with the original plan is almost unheard of. And so the fact that the revenue share program that we built back in 2009 is effectively the exact same plan that we have today. The equity plan, we added to it in 2013, 2014, first in the industry. And that was a game changer for the business. And so the things I'm proud of, and then the relationships. I think the fact that, and I kind of knew that it would appeal to a certain number of people that I looked up to in the industry, but it wasn't, obvious until a number of years later, till many of those same people recognized EXP as a place to hang their license. And so the team staying the course, which, by the way, is not the easiest thing to do, is to keep people staying the course, because you've got one person with a we call it a vision, or a monomaniac on a mission, but you have a lot of people saying, well, why aren't you considering my idea? Why aren't you considering my idea? And you're trying to stay the course. And that's a tough thing to do, is to stay the course when you do have other people who want to provide some feedback, some input. But when your vision is, this is the person that I'm looking to solve the challenge for, which again, I call myself a focus group of one. But I say, if we can stay the course, we're going to be able to attract a lot of other agents and brokers who think similar to me. It may not be 100% of the market, and it may only be 5 or 10% of the market. Of course, we're already close to 5% of the market in the US, but that's the market that I'm looking to solve the pain points for. And that's a big market.
And I've heard you reference before, and I'm paraphrasing here, that we don't compete with other brokerages. We're really looking at ourselves as a platform. And if there's a competitive streak in us, it's really against the Zillows, or competitively against the realtors. I know our acquisition of Zoocasa in Canada recently probably spoke to that. Can you speak a little bit further to that point?
Yeah, I think what's the phrase is that, winners focus on winning, and others focus on winners. So I don't really think about, and also we get to define, what do we mean by winning? Obviously, agent count is one of the metrics that we would use, but it's really the more qualitative metric of what are we hearing from agents in the field? How are we impacting their lives? And what are the things that we're doing to improve the lives of agents? And when we think about iterating around the agent value proposition, we say, if we stay the course there, then it's inevitable that eventually will be, 200,000 agents, 500,000 agents, 1 million agents. But it is a very much a stay the course mentality. There's a lot of folks, I think, that will get a certain degree of success, and then they'll ego and other things. And obviously we got to watch it ourselves. I mean, I'm saying this about others, but I think about even ourselves. Like, how do we stay humble while building the largest, fastest growing real estate brokerage on the planet? And I think that's the piece that I want to continue to stay the course on, is making sure that we stay humble. We remember that this is about the agent. This isn't about the management team, though necessary. It's about the agent. It's not about shareholders, though that's a necessary component because we're a public company for our agents. It's really about the agent, and staying that course and staying humble around that course.
One last question for you, Glenn. And that question is this. We've got an event coming up in October called EXPCon. It's one of the 2 events we run a year for the company to bring in our agents and brokers and have us collaborate at the highest level. It's also something that we often will bring some guest agents looking at our company, or guest brokers. If you were doing a personal request or a personal invitation to the agents within EXP for the upcoming event, what would you say to them? How would you invite them to come? Why would you want them to be there?
Yeah, proximity is power. I think that's something that a lot of people say, Brent and others. And the reality is that I would probably say, hey, we've got our EXP convention coming up October 11th through 14th in Las Vegas. I know you've heard about EXP, and what I'd like to do is invite you to just be in that environment, just so you can understand it better. I think once you're there, you'll see why so many agents are coming over to EXP, and you'll see how it matches up with maybe your goals in the business of real estate. And one of the things that you'll find is that inside of EXP is some of the most positive, uplifting, productive agents who are open to opening up their playbook because of the way that we've created the aligned compensation model. So love for you to come meet some of those agents and be